Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boom and Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today, talking about free agency. We have free agency coming up. Also, NFL Network, not NFL Network, but NFL.com dropped their list of 101 top free agents. So I figured it'd be a good time to talk about it. And so we'll go through that list and talk about who I might want. But anyway, before we get to that, couple things off the top. Obviously, we have the whole pandemic affecting all sports, all the world. And one of the effects is that the cap probably will be reduced, more than likely, but we don't know about how much. There was a report, NFL.com, last week that the NFLPA and the league agreed to a new floor or a new minimum of what the cap can be. And that actually increased from what they initially agreed to when the season began. So they've obviously, as we get more vaccines and whatnot, people feel a lot more confident about next year. So they've actually increased the minimum cap, but it won't be set until the owners' meeting. So we still don't know what it is. And I forgot what, I think the minimum is going to be, 180, which is like 12 million less than what, last season or like the previous seasons was. And that's the minimum. So we still don't know exactly how much is going to be less, but they said 180 is going to be the floor. So it could be higher than that, and we'll just see. So that's going to affect a lot of things. I don't know how that all is going to play out, especially with how they're paying people and like free agency, trying to get regular money versus like the actual, cap that they have. So I'm not sure. I don't think many people are sure exactly how that's going to look. So I'm going to say that up front. Really, I'm talking more about roster and scheme fit anyway. Not digging too deep into the numbers of it all, but that's going to be part of it. Also, we have what's his name? Kyle Rudolph that just got released by the Vikings, so he's not on the list, but he will be. And then Calvin Noy. They reported that the Dolphins will release him, and so he's not on the list either. Van Noy, not super. I'm not sure I'd be thinking too much about him, but Rudolph would be potential somebody. So yeah, the whole cap thing, I'm working off the NFL.com's list, so there it is. So I figured instead of just talking through it, I could, just work through the list, and then I could kind of talk through not each person, but point out the ones that pop up on my radar, if that makes sense. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get this started. So number one, Dak Prescott. Yes, I'd be interested. I do think we need a bridge quarterback, although Dak would fall more into a franchise label. However, obviously, you see him ranked number one, and we know his whole issue with Dallas is he wants more, I wouldn't say more money. He likes less years is what he was always saying, but he still wants to be paid a lot of money. So I'm bypassing Dak Prescott. I don't think he's good enough to warrant what it would take to break our whole cap for him. Trent Williams. Number two, I'm shocked. I mean, Trent's always been a great player. At 33, I don't know. And people say, oh, well, and it says right here they play late into their 30s. How late? Who? I mean, we have a couple examples of guys that go real late, but they break down injury wise too. I'm not really looking to give a top tier contract to a 33-year-old at any position, let alone tackle. And yes, obviously a position of need would really help some things out, but not really looking to it. Allen Robinson's number one on my wish list. Look at him, number 3. Ain't that crazy? So our receiver, our boy, is number 3 in the rankings. That's number 1 on my wish list. I know he's 28, and I know especially receivers without elite speed, they start to fall off a step with their speed as they get older. But I think Allen Robinson, while he does have surprising speed, his game is about much more than that. And so I do feel comfortable spending the top quality money that it would take to get Allen Robinson. Would I want to make him the highest paid receiver? Not exactly, but that's always on a year per year basis. I think if you spread out the incentives and the bonuses correctly, I wouldn't be mad taking a nice cap hit for Allen Robinson. Leo would be interesting. We are losing a good amount of our interior rotation, but I think he's going to cost too much after what he did in New York. So I'm going to just kind of scroll past until pop up. Also, J.J. Watt went to the Cardinals. I want to talk about that a little bit, but I mean, he went to the Cardinals. It's weird to see him in a different thing. Shaquille Barrett, I know that's probably going to be on a lot of people's list. I think too much. I don't talent versus how much it would cost for him. I'm not really looking to that. I think Shaquille had that crazy year and people thought that's who he was, but you watch the film. You watch the film this year. Good talent. I don't think he's good enough to be paid that. Aaron Jones would be a dream, but that's too much. I'm not paying a lot of money to a running back. I don't care who he is. But Aaron Jones is at that point where he would command a lot of money. So no thanks. Taylor Moton, they said, I knew him coming out. Top 20 tackle last 3 seasons. I don't know. Obviously we know what Carolina has done. So, and again, Pro Football Focus, I don't really trust their, stats, but that'd be someone to look at. If I know he's definitely much more of a run blocker than a pass protector, so that's somebody you could look at. But depending on the money, Sheriff too injury prone. I mean, he's probably gonna get good money. Really versatile. Actually, a lot of people thought he's gonna be a tackle coming out, and so he probably still has that versatility, but just too injury prone for the money. Bud Dupree, same thing. I always loved him since he came out. Too injury prone for the money. Trey Hendrickson, that would be a reach for me. I think he's probably the best pure pass rusher in this group. But after what he did last year, he's going to command a whole lot of money, and I don't want to break. We do need someone opposite Mack. Maybe if we got Mack off the books, but I wouldn't spend top tier money for Hendrickson. We just got too many other needs. Carl Larson, no. Galladay, potentially. And this is all in terms of replacing Allen Robinson if we didn't bring him back. Galladay, I would actually really take, because last year with the injuries, that's going to change his trajectory. He probably would have been over Allen Robinson in terms of a lot of people's rankings if he had another big year. But for me personally, I think with the injury, we might be able to get him a little more cheaper than you would Allen Robinson. Clowney, the only reason I'm passing over Clowney is because he said that he wants to make X amount of money, and I'm not paying him that. And if he wants to hold out, whatever. These two I like. Thuney, I like. Guys that are durable and consistent, and they cross train a lot in New England. So I think he could play between all the positions in the interior. Guard or tackle if we really needed him to. If he got to the free agency, that's somebody I feel comfortable making that money, because I do think our best bet is to get Whitehair at right guard and Daniels at left and get a new center. That's what I think our best bet is. So Thuney, I always messed it up. I would like Judon. I don't think he's the best edge rusher, but I think for the value, he'd be pretty good. Used to working hard, high energy, and coming from Baltimore, they do a little bit more with their linebackers, so I think he'll bring us a little more versatility, but also still giving us better edge presence than we got opposite Khalil Mack. Corey's kind of up there. Probably going to cost a good amount because he's coming from Green Bay, not worried. And Ngakoue, I'd be interested if it was cheap, but something's going on with him. He's bouncing between too many teams. His production's not the same. Will Fuller, nah. Now Jameis, probably people are going to talk about that. I don't understand it, to be honest with you. Jameis was one type of quarterback last year with Tampa, or 2 years ago with Tampa, and he became a backup and then played. Now everybody's clamoring for Jameis. I don't get it. I'm not interested. Sam, Juju, no. Cam Newton, I'm shocked he's ranked this high. If I got a New England type deal, I bring him in as a bridge. I would definitely do that. I also think he's got more ability than people are giving him credit for, but based off this ranking and how much he would ask for, that's what I would decide. I don't think Cam would come to Chicago, but he might want to be a starter. And again, if I could do it for about $1 million, then yes. Other than that, not really. Johnny Smith and Hunter Henry, too much money. I mean, more receivers anyway, receiving type. I think we're good at corner. Fitzpatrick, he's just up there. I'm not about to pay him. Romeo, I would like him. I think you talk about a guy, and I know they talk about Pro Football Focus, but talk about a guy with good pass rush tendencies, not as looked at because he's coming from Detroit. I like getting people from our division just because it helps a little bit. I mean, obviously they're flipping around Detroit, but I just like that. And so young, and I don't think he's going to command a crazy amount of money. So I think edge is definitely one of the positions we need. Judon, I like for his veteranness. This is more of an upside move. But again, if you could get him around, mid-level contract, not exactly high tier, I would definitely be interested. And honestly, I'd probably stretch him for above or, a little higher contract if you want to pay a little more for potential. I could go with that as well, because I think, again, a lot of it is about effort, and that's what you want to see on film. Marcus May, kind of like Justin Simmons. I skipped over him earlier. They're free safeties. We don't need that. I'm tired of the 2 free safeties. Dalvin Tomlinson's a beast. I think, again, most people coming off that New York team is going to command some good money. We do need more rotational guys, but Goldman, Akeem Hicks, and Bilal Nichols are 3, starter levels. So I think that if we were to bring somebody into our rotation, I don't know that I would be paying them top dollar. John Johnson, I think he's very underrated. I think he's very versatile. While I do want more of a physical presence with our safety, I think John Johnson does give you both of those. Now, he'll be a free agent. Obviously, this is a wish list. So I think for me, I would be okay paying him a decent amount of money. He's 25. He's really smart, has to pick up a lot of different things. And we really need that other safety to help in our run game. Levante, love him. Gonna get too much money. He older, but love him. And I think we good. Trevathan, after that injury, I think was much back to where he was. Darrell Williams, I know a lot of people talk about him. He's a run block, just like Moden. He came from Carolina too before, but always been a run blocker. That's kind of their gig. And I'm not exactly sure. We need a tackle. We might bring a Fetty back, but he's not a tackle. And obviously Massey is just terrible. So it would depend on the money. I wouldn't go with a high tier contract for him, but if I could get him at I don't know the word, not between mid and high tier contract, I'll be fine with that. Like Marcus, but don't need him. Leonard Floyd, that's funny. We're good on that. Houston, he's good, but he's up there. I'm not paying big money for that. Linebackers, I'm fine with. Darby potentially as a nickel. I know that's not what he typically plays, but potentially I would think about him as a nickel. TY, no. Andy Dalton, I mean, based off what he made last year and all that, and what they're looking to make this year, I just think I would much rather have other quarterbacks if for that money than Andy Dalton. David Andrews is on my list, definitely. I think, again, they're all pretty versatile in New England, but if you just plop him at center, I think we'll be good and let Cody Whitehair and them move over to his more natural position. Anthony Harris, is big on my list, pretty high up there. He has performed really well with Minnesota. I know they had a down year, and again, divisional opponents. I like that. But still, I think when you're talking about a guy that really understands how to come downhill and that really plays some smart football and can really hone in the scheme, I mean, you got him ranked here. They said, I guess he kind of didn't have a great year last year, but 100%, I would love to bring Anthony Harris in as that strong safety. Hilton, I mean, I don't really trust Pittsburgh's secondary. Ingram, I've always loved, but he's kind of up there. Chris Carson, I think he'll get good money. And again, I just lean towards drafting younger. But if you, for whatever reason, could get a cheap deal with Chris Carson, I would love that. As much as I like Dave Montgomery, I do think we need a second guy that's not Cordell Patterson. KJ's up there. Marvin Jones, similar to Kenny Golladay. Obviously, Golladay has a little more upside because he's younger, but Marvin balled. Marvin balled last year. He balled the year before. I mean, I don't think it's a bad pickup at all if we couldn't get Allen Robinson to get Marvin Jones. I would 100% be behind that. And because of Golladay and other receivers, I think you definitely would get him for a more cheaper side of the deal. Autry, I think he'd be an excellent candidate for a rotational D lineman. Ranking him at 58. He's kind of one of those cogs, and I don't think he would command a big time contract. I think you could get him on a 2-year deal for something mid tier. I think this is a guy that's been many different schemes, show versatility, and just really stout against the run. Jacoby Brissette, man. I'm not gonna lie. I would be okay with him as the bridge quarterback. I think obviously, even if you got somebody else, or they end up taking over whatever, you've seen what he can do with the red zone packages or short yardage packages. He comes from New England. I mean, he's young. I know he hasn't, his time as a starter, he didn't show the best. But I'm not looking for somebody to take it over and open it up. I think hopefully we realize that we are solid with it in our run game and then using our play action game. I think Jacoby being able to be a manager, I think he'd be able to fill that role out pretty well. I mean, you're ranking him at 63. Obviously, quarterbacks all have a bump, but I'd much rather pay him than Mitch Trubisky or Nick Foles, whatever they would get paid. That's my personal opinion, and kind of see how it goes. But again, these are bridge quarterbacks. Daquan Jones, I really like. Similar to Autry. Now he's more of a nose, but still, I think, relatively versatile enough to be within the interior anywhere we need him to be. That's a good rotational piece coming off the Titans. They were not a great defense, so I don't think he would command as much money. And I think, overall, I would like to see him thrown into the rotation. Just Quizkey Tart I'd like, but just so injured that I probably would end up passing on him. Ken Drake, I don't know. I think Montgomery's good enough on third down, and Drake's not good enough on first and second to really go after him, but good player. Ogunjobi, I think he might command a little more money because he's younger. And Cleveland had a pretty solid defense, but, I would want him, but I wouldn't pay a lot of money for him. And I think he's better as an upfield rusher than kind of a 3-4-2 gap guy. Woods, no. No, I'm straight on defenders from Cowboys. Sheldon Rankins, I think I would pay money, and it is tough because he's been injured, but he was he was highly touted coming out. I wasn't as big of a fan as some people were, but I think in the league he showed that he can be devastating. And while we are 2-gap, more 3-4, I think we could do better with a little bit more upfield interior players. We saw flashes of that with Mario Edwards, which I hope we bring back. I think getting Sheldon Rankins in that rotation, especially because you got a guy that has been injured and he doesn't have the pressure of having to be the starter every snap. You get a guy bringing him in with some real surprising flash that's a different level of speed than you going against Hicks and Goldman play after play, and then you get Rankins. I think that'd be a nice switch up and could really provide some pressure on a pressure package. And since he's been injured, I think that's a guy you can get on a little bit cheaper contract than you probably would have a few years ago. Keanu Neal is same thing. I think while he's had that big injury, he showed that he can still ball. I mean, he's young, and you talk about physical presence. Like some of the other safeties, Johnson, Harris, I do believe they will 100% improve our run game, but I don't think either of them is going to be an imposer like Neal is. Now, Neal is very much a down in the box safety. Not to say that he can't cover the back end, but again, we got a guy that has excellent range. I think we need to complement that not only with somebody that's physical, but somebody that knows how to come downhill and not sit on their heels and wait for the run, but knows how to go attack it. And he's a good blitzer. I mean, there's a lot of things you could do. Again, if you're talking about 2 years ago, this would be a super pricey player, but because of the injuries, I think you could get him on a much more reasonable deal right now. Duke Johnson, I kind of thought about, but again, I think Montgomery's good enough on third down. Villanueva might be worth the kick in the tires, but he really hasn't been the same the last few years. Desmond King, I already told you I felt when he was traded that he is high on my list. We could bring back Buster, and I like him. I know a lot of people will hate him for some reason, but I think he's one of the better nickels. But Desmond King is different. I think that's a different level, not only as a nickel, but also as a special teamer. For whatever happened with Charge. It's funny because I honestly didn't read these, but I'm about to say something and it says similar to what it says. Like, I was just about to say he fell out with the Chargers, and for whatever reason that happened, I don't really care because that doesn't mean he can play with us. And obviously we've seen the production on the field. Yeah, man, that's one of the better college players to ever come out, more instinctive ones. I would absolutely love to add Desmond King because with our system, we don't need too much versatility at the corner spot. We know what Kyle Fuller is. We know what Jalen Johnson is, and it works. But when you're talking about a nickel in any scheme, that's where you need somebody a little more dynamic. But not only that, this is a guy that nickel corner safety. So if you want to bring Eddie Jackson down and play man, you could invert and put Desmond King back deep. You could do different things like that. And so I would absolutely give I would honestly even scratch a high tier contract, not like a highest paid in the league, but I would scratch a high tier with Desmond King and to lock him up for 4 or 5 years. Absolutely. I think people are a little bit overplaying what happened with the Chargers, but I would say he's high on my list. Alden Smith, I kick the tires on it. Tyrod Taylor, I would kick the tires on it. Especially if the price is right, I kick the tires on it. Marlon Mack, now that's one people might not think about. He did have an Achilles injury. A lot of people talk about that as a major injury. But that's what makes me think, yeah, the price is going to be different. Obviously with Jonathan Taylor, the Colts aren't really worried about Mack anymore. And so his again, a year ago, his market is way different. And so I think, again, we need somebody that can be more in between the tackles, that can be a change up to David Montgomery. And Mack on a decent contract, if you feel his medicals are there, I would absolutely like to see that happen. Beachum has never been good. I don't know why he always pops up here. Derek Wolfe, I would kick the tires. I feel like he would get more money than you would expect. And so that kind of turns me off. But if you had a decent amount, or if you had a number on the table that was decent, I would like to see him in a rotation too. Excellent balance between run and pass rusher. Aloysius, he's kind of up there. I can't pronounce that name. Tac Mckinley, I would like to see. I think a lot of people gave up on him, and he has physical talent. He's very young. That's somebody I would not mind a 1 year thing, especially if you couldn't get a Judon or anybody else on the edge. I wouldn't mind a 1 year, look-see deal with him and see what you could get out of him, because a lot of the raw ability is still there. Troy Hill, he would be interesting. Extremely versatile in what he's done over the few years. The Rams, he would be interesting. But I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't want him at nickel. I don't know if he still has the giddy up to play that position. Lawrence Guy, I would kick around the tires. Santos, obviously, hopefully we get our kicker back. Dan Arnold, not really. I feel like I passed over the tight end that I wanted to talk about. KK Short, Mitch Trubisky, no thanks. James White, same thing with the other guys. I just don't think we need a third down back. We actually need a more in between the tackle. So that is everybody in the top 101. I'm just double checking. I feel like there was a tight end. I mean, Jonnu Smith and Hunter, they're just more of receivers. So, yeah, I'm going to stop there. But I would say Kyle Rudolph, I wouldn't mind. I would not mind having Kyle Rudolph come over to the Bears. Again, I got a thing for divisional opponents. But at a 1 year or 2 year mid-tier deal or lower to mid-tier deal, I wouldn't mind bringing in Kyle Rudolph. I don't know if we bring Jimmy Graham back with the number he has, but I think he was absolutely effective. So that's if we didn't bring Jimmy Graham back, I would like to see that. Somebody that could give us more in the blocking sense, because yes, Kmet could step up more in the passing role as well, but we were effective with those 2 and 3 tight end sets with pass protection, and so I would like to see us continue that. So if we didn't bring Jimmy back, I think Kyle Rudolph would be an interesting person to look at. Some of the other tight ends, I mean, I don't really know. That none of them were great blockers. So I wish Higbee was on the free agency instead of Everett, but it is what it is. So those are my thoughts. I mean, I named a lot of people. Allen Robinson's obviously high on my list. If we don't bring Allen back because of the numbers, then Marvin Jones, Galladay, I think would be interesting. At safety, like I said, Anthony Harris, Keanu Neal. John Johnson might be a little more expensive. He's really young, but I think Harris and Neal would be really nice pickups. I like Tart, but he's injured a lot. And then as far as some rotational pieces on our D-line and Marlon Mack, I think that'd be a nice flyer for as far as getting somebody that we can get on a 1-year deal. But yeah, and I know again there's a lot of higher tier people like, oh, you didn't name them, you didn't. Again, I mentioned them, but I'm not as hard pressed to get them because the money might be too much to match their talent, or they might be too injury prone. But anyway, go to the comment section, let me know what you think, share around, get the conversation started, and remember, stay up and bear down.